Welcome to the MediMobile Podcast, where we dive deep into the latest innovations transforming healthcare technology and medical coding. I'm Emily, a marketing specialist here at MediMobile, and today we're excited to have a special conversation with MediMobile CEO Paul and our Director of Business Development, Lauren. Together, they'll be discussing our cutting-edge automated medical coding solution, Genesis. Paul and Lauren will explore how Genesis is helping healthcare organizations streamline workflows, reduce operational costs, and unlock hidden revenue. If you're curious about how AI is reshaping the future of coding, you won't want to miss this episode. Let's head over to their conversation now.
Thank you, Emily. On today's podcast, we have Paul Valenzuela, MediMobile CEO, joining us today. How are you, Paul?
Doing great, thank you.
So we'll start with, how has MediMobile evolved over the last 20 years in terms of serving its customers?
MediMobile has evolved in the last 20 years by the size of our customers, the size of our company. We've had lots of technology changes over the years, and the industry has evolved quite a bit. I feel that MediMobile has actually changed the industry with some of the features that we've offered by acquiring patient feeds directly from hospital systems. We actually acquire medical record feeds from the hospital systems, and we were the first one to do that about 10 years ago, and we're still the only company that offers a solution like that. So we've been a leader in technology in our space. We continue to lead with our development efforts and innovation within our space.
So what role did MediMobile play in leading the mobile charge capture movement in healthcare?
I think the technology piece in terms of real-time access to patient data, many of our competitors are kind of chasing us in terms of acquiring data feeds, real-time data feeds, and actually using technology to help the autonomous coding process or even the medical billing process in terms of efficiently being able to process the bills. So we continue to make the charge capture process as efficient as possible.
Paul's absolutely right. We continuously hear from our customers how efficient obtaining those ADT as well as MDM feeds make the process for our customers. So Paul, what customer success story are you most proud of?
So one of the stories, one of our customers that I'm most proud of, we've actually had one of our customers that was with us from the very beginning, 20 years ago. We actually learned with them, we grew with them, and they've actually continued to work with us. And the interesting part is that customer actually had one of their providers leave the practice and go to another state. And actually that customer brought us another very large customer, and now they're present in about 15 states throughout the country. So it's one of those things where if you take care of all of your customers, even a single customer could come back and bring many other customers out there. So I feel like we listen to our customers. In this case, that particular customer, we've been able to generate a lot of business through word of mouth. So again, taking care of each and every one of our customers is very important.
So as Paul stated, taking care of our customers is a priority here at MediMobile, and being able to have our 24/7 dedicated support staff as well as an account manager for each individual customer does continue that satisfaction throughout our customer base. So Paul, about this time last year, we launched our autonomous coding for customer use. Can you tell us about how long did the development process take for what we call Genesis to get market ready?
So the process, it's taken years to develop a solution like this. The process really evolved around technology, not so much necessarily in the medical coding space, but being able to process large amounts of data. So the first thing we had to do was really understand technology and the systems that were available so that we could process many, many medical records and be able to efficiently read those documents. So in any space, in any industry, you have to first come up with a solution to be able to do that with thousands and thousands of documents and medical records, if you will. After that, you apply the medical knowledge that needs to be used to actually convert those documents into charges. That process is something that's been around for many years. The solution to put all that together, again, has taken us several years. And then the third piece of it, I like to call really the ongoing training and testing of that model. So each time we bring a new customer on, we're having to train that model depending on their specialty, depending on the practice type, the facility, the different areas that are needed in order to efficiently and accurately train the system to be able to handle those medical documents.
And what does that testing process look like?
The testing evolves around processing many, many documents, and then there's a team that's actually reviewing and analyzing the results of that processing. And then, of course, we're continuing to train the model. So as we get different specialties, different facility types, different types of cases that are involved in the process, one of the main things that we're looking to do in identifying the accuracy of the documents are identifying any uncertainty in the documentation of those charges. So as we focus on the things that we do know with great accuracy, we're really focused on the things that we're uncertain, and those are the things that we focus on continually.
What were the major milestones in developing and launching the Genesis platform?
So some of the major milestones, again, I talked about the computer systems that actually have to process these large number of medical records. So one of the things is our team put together some very custom computer systems that allow the processing of these multitude of documents through a very, very fast process. So that was a very big thing that we had to move our solution into a platform that we weren't familiar with. And over time, it's evolved, and we've been able to really streamline and make that process very efficient. So really, it was the volume of documents that we had to move through that process. The other elements of that would be really in the presentation of that data to the user of the system. So coming up with an idea that would include the user in the process of the charge capture of the medical billing process was another thing that we did that was really neat, that a provider could actually see in real time what they had just created in the medical record or their medical documentation, see it on the screen, and then be able to compare it to with the charge that was created using the documentation that they just used. So those are some of the bigger things that we did. And then, of course, the goal of that is to remove the provider from having to actually use the system. And then as the system gains confidence, the user gains confidence, the process just takes it just works on its own very quickly.
What do you see as the biggest challenge in healthcare billing today, and how does Genesis address that?
I think the biggest challenge in medical billing is really around efficiency. The medical billing process has been around for many years. It hasn't really changed in a really long time. The idea of acquiring electronic data or patient data in a very fast electronic way has not been utilized by many practices even today. So a lot of them still use very manual processes. They use a lot of antiquated solutions that are out there. And of course, being able to make that process more efficient is almost impossible using solutions of today. So utilizing our system with the Genesis process, we're able to take that information and use technology to quickly process those documents into medical bills. So what that also does is it allows those medical professionals, instead of actually focused on the day-to-day mundane charges that go through the process, allows that to go through in a fairly automated way, and then allows those medical coders to focus on the more complex cases, or even the ones that have questions based on the medical documentation that might have some questions around what should they be coded, and therefore they can focus on the harder things, and in some cases really not even have to worry about the low-hanging fruit and focused on the very more challenging cases, if you will.
And Paul brings up the examples that have allowed one of our larger customers to actually reduce the coder workload by about a third using our AI platform. So what are the key advantages of MediMobile's Genesis platform compared to traditional coding methods?
I think very similar to what I just talked about, using the technology to actually allow it to do the work for the coders. The other thing that it's really helped with is as providers are seeing the system work for them, they can start to analyze their documentation. And in some cases, we can very gently present the fact that their documentation could be improved. Therefore, a computer could actually analyze it and output a code. So that's one of the things that I think it's really brought to the forefront, where providers have been working for many, many years doing the same things, which is not a fault of anyone, but by utilizing technology to very quickly give them feedback on what they're actually inputting into the system and outputting a code that could make it more efficient. That's one of the benefits that a lot of folks don't like to talk about, that they actually are able to get some real-time feedback. And then, of course, from a medical coding standpoint, having a system that can actually bounce against a standard. In a lot of cases, traditional coding methods that are out there are just based on the medical coder's experience. You have a new coder that learned it a certain way, and somebody that's been doing it for 20 years might do it completely different. There's no uniformity. There's no comparing any of the knowledge that's out there, because it's all based on their own experience.
So what do you see as the biggest benefit for those that utilize Genesis?
So one of the areas, based on some of the things that we've seen, has been, at the end of the day, it's all about revenue. So if we can improve the process to speed up getting charges through the medical coding process, and at the same time adding some of these elements that we've talked about to improve the accuracy, we can reduce denials and also help ensure that the providers are getting paid at the highest levels based on the information that we can look at directly at their medical record or their documentation, if you will. So I do feel like efficiency, accuracy, and then, of course, at the end of the day, maximizing revenue as much as possible.
So you brought up the efficiency. So how does Genesis utilize the AI and deep learning to enhance coding accuracy and efficiency?
So one of the things that we did was we had to actually develop some solutions to analyze the data. We had to look at individuals and how they actually wrote their medical records. So you have different backgrounds of folks that are documenting the medical records. They use different phrases. We had to normalize a lot of that data. So we use technology to really understand that, have to create a model that can normalize as much of that information, bounce it against the medical coding piece of it. And it took us, again, quite a while to do that. And what that does is it brings everyone to the same level, so that we're really comparing the medical component of it in terms of a medical coding, from a medical coding perspective, so that we could then quickly analyze that information and output a charge. The efficiency in doing that, again, took us quite a while to do that, but we use different knowledge bases that are out there that many folks use, but us applying it to our specific space was something that took us, again, a great deal of time and effort, and of course utilizing new technologies to make that happen in a quick and efficient way.
What have been the biggest challenges in bringing an automated coding solution to the healthcare market?
There's not a challenge whatsoever. No, I'm just kidding. One of the challenges that we have is really access to some of that data. So we work with all of the large hospital systems throughout the country. Sometimes just getting through that process. So obviously patient data is very important. It's very secure, so we have to go through some bureaucracy to get that information. And once you get access to that information, it's very easy to implement the solution. But in some cases, you do have some challenges getting that information into our process. But that alone is one of the things that once we can break through that, we can move mountains, we can make things happen. It's just a matter of getting that data, and again, working with our clients to make that happen is what makes it work.
How do you see automation shaping the future of medical coding over the next 5 to 10 years?
I believe, again, access to the right information is one of the key things, and we haven't talked a lot about it up to this point, but actually accessing information after it's been processed. So understanding the rules of the medical billing process and the medical coding process specifically put into place before the provider actually has an opportunity to code it incorrectly. And what I mean by that is there are payers that will allow certain codes and certain bills to be completed, but they have certain rules that are not allowed in the medical billing process because of there are a lot of rules around how certain insurance companies will allow processing of those medical bills. So what we continue to focus on is gaining an understanding so that when a provider actually creates a bill, they don't even have to think about what they're actually billing for that particular case. And what I mean by that is our system will understand the payer, they'll understand the patient, and they'll understand the rules around what can be used, and the provider will then pick the right code. If it's not in the family of codes that need to be used, we'll present to them what should be used. So again, that's just an example of really understanding the rules of what can be used so that the provider doesn't even have to think about it. And in many cases, we'll code the case for them so that they don't have to even create the charge. One of the things that we're working on today is actually gaining a better understanding of how those rules are processed after the case has been completed. So we're trying to take that information, populate it throughout the process so that it's done ahead of the billing process before the patient is even seen. So that to me is an evolution over the next several years of being able to understand what can we do to help ensure that the efficiency, the accuracy, and the timeliness of those charges, and again, at the end of the day, improving the denials so that everything can be processed as efficiently as possible.
Okay, Paul, well, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for all the information about MediMobile, the history of MediMobile. We look forward to talking with you again.
Cool. Thanks, Lauren.
Emily, back to you.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of the MediMobile Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this insightful look into Genesis and how it's driving real impact and innovation for our clients. If you'd like to learn more about how Genesis can support your organization, or if you're interested in booking a demo, head over to MediMobile.com or reach out to us directly at sales@MediMobile.com. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how MediMobile is helping healthcare professionals do their best work. Until next time.